Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to talk about a product that I've recently discovered. I haven't recently discovered it, but I've recently fallen in love with it. And I definitely want to talk about it because I feel like more people should know about it. I never hear people talking about this product. It's the MAC Cosmetics Next to Nothing Face Color. What I've been looking for in a foundation over the last few years is that perfect product that's going to smooth everything out, even out my skin tone, just look like perfect skin. Now, I will say there are pros and cons with this foundation. I don't think this is like a beginner level foundation. This isn't something that you can just kind of like slap on really quick with a brush or with a beauty blender. First, I'm going to backtrack and kind of show you what I use as far as like my skincare and my skin prep and all that stuff before I go in with this foundation. So what I did first was I actually washed my face with this Confidence and a Cleanser by It Cosmetics, just to remove all of like the oil and everything from my skin from overnight. Once I was finished washing my face, I then went in and I exfoliated really well with the Micro Delivery Exfoliating Facial Wash by Philosophy. I think that that's a very important step. You want a really smooth surface to start out with before applying this foundation. I did not put on any moisturizer. I did not put on any eye cream yet. There's nothing on my face right now. So I'm going to start with an eye cream that's actually a 2-in-1. This is the First Aid Beauty Eye Duty Triple Remedy. This is a tinted eye cream. I have this in the shade Fair Medium, and it is said to instantly brighten, depuff, and smooth, and it's safe for sensitive skin. Now again, for you, if you have like really dark circles, you'll probably want to go in with an actual concealer, or maybe even like the It Cosmetics Bye Bye Under Eye, because that's like skincare and it's full coverage, so that might work out too. And like I said, I've been using this foundation for a few days now, and I've actually been applying it with a brush the way that Max says that you're supposed to apply it. And it's been working out really well for me. But this morning, I actually wanted to just kind of test it out to see if it would work any differently with a beauty blender. And since a beauty blender is going to absorb product, I thought with something as thin and as watery as the Next to Nothing, I thought it would absorb so much of the product that I would be left with nothing on my face. So I went in and I applied half my face with this brush, and I applied the other half with the beauty blender, and I actually preferred the beauty blender side. I got the exact same amount of coverage. It looked exactly the same on both sides to look at it, but if you got up close, you could really kind of see where the brush side was just a little less flawless. But if you do want to apply this foundation with a brush, you don't want to swipe it onto the skin. You don't want to do one of these kind of motions, because one of the cons with this foundation is that it pills up very easily. The best way to avoid that is going to be to just tapping it. Like, you want to do really light tapping motions, just a very deliberate, a very soft tapping, and kind of just go over that area until it is blended in how you want it. And once you get like, let's say you start on your forehead, you get your forehead perfected and you get everything blended the way you want to, then you want to go in with more and work on, your cheek area, again, section by section. And even with the best application, before you set this foundation, I found, especially on my nose area, it can be a little blotchy looking and it can look a little uneven, which is why you're going to want to go in and probably do like, maybe 2, maybe even 3 layers in those areas that might be a little bit more problematic. But I did find less of that happening when I applied it with the beauty blender. So I'm going to shut up and I'm actually going to apply this shit to my face. And I'm going to pump 1 pump onto the beauty blender. And you know what? I'm going to pump 2, because I feel like you do have to use a lot of this as well. So I'm going to start on the forehead. And I also feel like with this foundation, when you're pouncing either with the brush or the beauty blender, you don't want to go in really hard with the blender or with the brush. You want to be very delicate with it. You want to very lightly kind of pounce that onto your skin. You don't want to give the beauty blender like that push in this way like you would with most other foundations. And see what I mean? You want to really lightly kind of just tap that into the skin. Or not into the skin, you want to tap it onto the skin. I'm going to get up close so I can kind of pounce that into the hairline. Yeah, I was really afraid to use this with a beauty blender, and then again, I tried it on just half the face, and I'm like, this is exactly how this is supposed to be used. And it's definitely much less finicky when you use it with a beauty blender. Because again, it can work, and it does work with a brush. But again, the more that you move this product around, and the more that, I don't know, the more that you touch it, the more that it wants to pill up, and the weirder it gets. So then I'm gonna do one pump on the nose. So I'm gonna just kind of dab that on. And again, I'm dabbing so lightly. I don't wanna add any pressure to that beauty blender. I just wanna get it on. And since I do have that under eye concealer eye cream, I'm gonna avoid the direct under eye area because it just doesn't need any coverage. It's, you know, it's exactly what I already need it to be. I would say do not use a brush to apply this foundation. I would definitely say use a damp beauty blender because it's like, my nose is good. It's like, it's way better than it was with the brush application. And again, when I used the brush, it was totally fine and it did work, but I had to dick around with it for a long time. Again, you can still see like, you know, broken capillaries here. You can still see like little bit of scarring from like old zits and stuff. Definitely like this guy over here. So all of that is still gonna be visible through this foundation. So you can go over top of that. I am gonna try out a concealer with this today just to see how it does. I'm gonna take one more pump. And then this last pump is gonna be for the chin, the lower face, and then down the neck a little bit. So I'm just gonna dab. I actually kind of press the beauty blender kind of up into the hair and almost get underneath that hair. That way it's not just sitting over top of it and like leaving areas underneath the individual hairs that aren't covered. And the same here. And that's what it looks like with just the foundation. We do have the under eye concealer that was built into the eye cream. So that is on there as well. But this foundation worked really well over top of it. It didn't pill up. It didn't get gummy. It didn't get funky. It's very smooth. It's very even. It's completely undetectable. Like in real life, if you got right up on my face, like if you were right in my face this close, you could not see this on my skin, which is exactly what I'm looking for. So I am gonna go in and just spot conceal a tiny bit just to kind of like even out these spots on the neck, this little guy here, and just a few of those areas. I'm gonna use the Maybelline Instant Age Rewind, and this is in the shade Ivory. Then I'm gonna use this little tiny micro beauty blender, and I'm gonna use it dry. And then I'm just gonna kind of softly pat those areas where I have that concealer, and see, it's gone. We'll get this guy right here. I feel like with concealer, if you go in with a wet beauty blender, it just kind of dilutes the product too much, and then you have to go in with another layer of concealer anyway. So I just feel like if you can go in with the thinnest, lightest amount of that concealer possible, just on the actual blemish. Okay, so now we're gonna get into kind of setting everything down with powder, highlighter, contour, all of that kind of stuff. So I just picked up this MAC Studio Fix Sculpt and Shape Contour Palette. I got it in the light medium. I'm gonna go back and forth into the shades Emphasize and Cream on this small powder brush from BH Cosmetics. And that's gonna be my lightest shade to set the under eye, down my nose, and in the center of the forehead. And then on a slightly larger brush, this is like a really, it's like a medium-sized angle brush. I'm gonna dip into the shade Accentuate. And this one is more of like a pinky peachy tone, but it's still very, very light. And I'm going to kind of hit the top of the forehead, kind of like encasing, kind of encircling the area where I put the lightest powder on the apple of my cheek, kind of right underneath the under eye area. And since it is a pinkier tone, it just kind of makes a little bit more sense to keep this more like on the cheek and kind of up in this area where like the sun would hit you and kind of make you a little bit more like rosy, I guess. And then with this giant soft fluffy brush from BH Cosmetics, this was from their Marble Luxe brush set, I'm gonna go into the Next to Nothing face powder, and this is in the shade Medium Plus, so this one is a little bit darker, and I'm just gonna kind of pop that onto the perimeter of my face. And it really does have that barely there look and feel to the product, so it's like, I feel like for as many layers of stuff that we have going on right now, it still just looks like skin. And then with the same brush that I used just a few minutes ago, I'm gonna go into the shade Bone Beige. This is a little bit warmer and maybe a little bit on the pinkier side of things. And that's gonna be basically the start, and it's gonna be the base of my contour. And then I believe this is a MAC 168, maybe it's a 163. It's hard to tell because the numbers are worn off. I'm gonna go into Sculpt. We can really start to add some depth and a little bit of shadow right where we need it. And then I'm gonna go into Sculpt on a Sigma E25. Now I need to be careful about how much of this that I use because this is gonna be my nose contour, and you guys know that I usually use Naked by Urban Decay. And I wanna use this one today as my nose contour, and this is a lot more pigmented and it's more warm toned than Naked is. So I just wanna be really careful about how much of that I'm using. And then before I get into eyebrows and eye makeup, I'm actually gonna go in with the Maybelline Fit Me Loose Finishing Powder. I have these in the shades 05 Fair and number 10 Fair Light. I like to mix these two shades together in equal parts, and I actually keep them in one of these little travel jars from Z Palette, and then going in with a dry beauty blender and just picking up a little bit of that product. I'm gonna go ahead and just kind of lightly bake the under eyes, and then with whatever is left on that sponge, I'm gonna go ahead and just kind of press that around in my T-zone to just kind of help to mattify the area and to kind of set everything else into place. All right, so this is everything freshly applied, freshly powdered. I'm gonna go ahead and get the rest of my makeup on, everything finished. I'll come back in a few hours, which due to the magic of television, it'll be like 2 seconds, and you guys can see how everything is looking on my skin. Okay, so I've got the rest of my makeup on, and we're now about 3 hours in, and this is what we're looking like at this point. Now, the under eye might be just like a tad bit more like makeup-y than the rest of it, because I did have the Maybelline Fit Me Loose Powder underneath the eyes to catch eyeshadow fallout, and so when I swept that away, I actually went into Emphasize and Cream from this contour palette on this Sigma tapered highlighter brush, the F35, just to take away the matte effect that was happening there and to add just a little bit more luminosity. Now I will insert a photo just so you guys can see what this ends up looking like on the skin many hours later. I'm not gonna touch it up. I'm just gonna let it go. It's my favorite. It's my actual favorite foundation I've ever used. The way it looks on the skin, the way that it lasts on the skin. Faye, if you're watching, give this foundation another chance. I know you hate it. And I think you've got very similar skin to what I have. So if I can make this work and if I can love this, I think you could love it too. But let me know what you guys think. Have you used this foundation? Do you like it? Do you hate it? If you hate it, try it again. Try using some of the tips and techniques that I used today, and see if it works out a little bit better for you next time. Again, the look that I'm wearing today, this eyeshadow look, is gonna be in the next video, so stay tuned for that. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next one.